Hello there. My name is Gregory Arabian. I'm a major in the United States Air Force, honorably discharged following the Korean-era conflict, and I'm the oral history director of Post 41 AMVETS, which is the Corporal Paul S. Margosian post in Watertown, Massachusetts. We are conducting an oral history project in connection with the Library of Congress and the Veterans History Project. It is our hope that of the 160 veterans we have in Post 41 in Watertown, we will be able to get the majority of the members included in the oral history project. They have memories and of experiences that they underwent during World War II. We have a very colorful history of most of our veterans, and I must say that from the histories that I've taken, the experiences of our World War II veterans of this particular post is particularly outstanding. Today we're going to take the oral history of one of our comrades, Alfred Margosian. Al Margosian has a very impressive history, and I hope to share it with you. It is our hope that this will be of information and inspiration to generations to come. Join me then, and let's hear from Al Margosian and his experiences in World War II. You were born in Watertown,
Right.
and were you living with your family?
Right.
And where'd your father and mother come from?
Armenia.
Where in Armenia?
Okay, my mother was, Harput?
Harput.
And my father came from Arabkir.
Arab?
Yeah, Arab. Is that what they call it?
Arabkir?
Yeah,
Arabkir and Harput.
right.
All right. And they met in the United States?
Oh, yes, yeah.
And where were they married?
They actually were married in, wait a minute now. Where were they married? They were married in 1919, I know that.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was 18 years old. Where were they married?
So they came to the United States sometime after the genocide?
Well, my father came, let me see now. My mother came here, she was about 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And my father came, he and his brother actually escaped from the Turks.
Uh-huh.
And if I remember, they were picked up by a Japanese freighter that was in the harbor. What harbor, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And the freighter took them to Syria. He was in Aleppo, Syria, and then he went to Cairo, and then from Cairo he came here.
To the United
My
States.
father never talked much about his past. It's just
That's
very,
the part. That's sad. isn't it?
very, very little. We know very little about his. Outside, he had some brothers.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And my mother's side, I knew everybody, literally. You know, they're all over here.
So you were born and brought up in the Watertown area?
Yeah, right.
Okay. And did you attend the Watertown schools?
Yeah, yeah.
Graduated Watertown High School?
Yeah. Yes.
And when was that?
1944.
All right. So I take it that you joined the service sometime in 40.
Actually, they came in and recruited us right at the high school. Some of the senior class boys, they assembled us, and one was an Army program, believe it or not,
Really?
which my friend who lived in my house downstairs, Dick Mosesian, he went into the Army version, and I went into the Naval Air Crew because I didn't feel like walking. So I decided the flying was better. That's the brain of a 17-year-old at the time.
Uh-huh. So did you have a cadet program in the high school?
Yeah.
Or did they just recruit you from the...
No, there was a cadet program. Who was it? McGovern? I remember that.
There was a cadet program? Were you part of the cadets?
I think I was. And if I remember, because we marched around in the gym quite a bit and outside. It was nothing too much at that time. You know, we didn't think much of it.
Do you remember Pearl Harbor?
Oh, yeah.
Where were you at Pearl Harbor?
Pearl Harbor, I was in high school. I was in 1941. I must have been, what, a sophomore?
What did you think of Pearl Harbor in terms of our preparedness?
At that time or
Yes,
later?
at that time.
What does a high school kid think of our preparedness at that time?
Right.
Well, it sounded like we weren't prepared too well, that was for sure.
Yeah.
I think we learned that later even more so. you
Yes. And what did you think of it in terms of the way that we were attacked?
know. Well, I thought it was kind of sneaky at that
Yeah.
time. I'll use that word because I
Yeah.
probably felt that way at that time.
But you continued on with your education
Right.
and graduated from high school,
Right.
from which they recruited you.
Right.
All right. So you decided to go into the Naval Air Corps?
Naval Air Crew, they called it.
Naval Air Crew.
Right, crew.
Had you done any flying at that time?
No, not really, no.
Did you know what it was to go flying?
Once my father took us up on one of those, well, not he, but I mean, a pilot took us up on one of those 50-cent rides around and then down again.
In a biplane?
Yeah.
Where was this?
Let me see, that was going toward the South Shore, like I think we were heading for Nantucket Beach, and it was an airport, what town would that be?
Well, there's one in Nantucket.
No, it was before that, no, it was much before that.
Otis?
No, it was just a little civil airport, I mean, we went up for rides.
What did you think of flying at that time?
I thought it was nice,
You enjoyed it?
yeah.
Okay.
It was only one time, though.
Is that what
It was a
influenced
Ford
you?
Trimotor,
Ford Trimotor?
Yeah.
Oh, so it was a large plane?
yeah.
Three
Two-
engines?
Two, yeah, that's right, there was one.
One in
yeah,
front?
and two on the sides, yeah.
Okay. And when was that in relationship to the time that you joined the?
Oh, gosh, I think we were probably only about 12 or 13 at the time, something like
Okay,
that.
I see. All right. Why did you pick the service branch that you joined?
Why?
You said you didn't like to
I liked
walk.
the idea of flying, too. I thought, I didn't want to wind up in the infantry and walk, because
I
I had
see.
flat feet.
Okay,
And I didn't feel like walking all the time. That was my reasoning at that age.
Yeah.
Things like that.
but they took you, despite the fact that you had flat feet, they took you in the Naval Air Corps.
Well, in fact, I remember them saying when I took my exam, they said to me, you know, you have flat feet. I said, yeah. I says, but I'm not going to walk, I'm going to fly. And they said, okay,
That's it.
that's it.
Do you recall the first days in service after you were
As far
recruited?
as...
Where were you recruited?
In Boston.
Okay.
And you mean getting on the training, heading out?
Yeah, yeah.
Heading down to Jacksonville?
You did your paperwork in South Boston, the Fargo building?
Yeah, I think that's where it was. It must have been.
And then you took a train or
Train, we went down to Jacksonville. Florida.
Jacksonville. So that's the first, after you did your usual paperwork, that's the
Right.
first thing, that's the first thing you should do. What do you recall down in Jacksonville? What'd you do down there?
I recall it was extremely hot, and it was in
Yeah.
the summertime. And a lot of us guys standing outside whenever your parade's standing in line, some of them fainted. You know, it was just that hot.
This is the summer of 1944.
Right.
And
And,
this was after the Second World War?
No. it
The war was still
June-
raging at that
Oh,
time?
yeah, oh, yeah.
This was
The
June,
war ended
July?
in 46.
Uh-huh.
Japan quit in 46.
Well, I think it was August 45.
Japan?
Yeah.
Or was that the Germans?
Germans ended in April of 45.
And it was just a few months later?
Yeah, then we dropped
I
the
was
bomb
trying to
on Japan.
remember.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Okay, but yeah, we are still engaged in combat.
Yeah, we were.
So you went down to Jacksonville,
Right.
and what did you do down there?
Well, we took basic training, a
What
lot of
about that?
marching around, and let's see, was there nothing really special that I can recall in basic training except doing a lot of marching. And the food was terrible. I couldn't eat it. After my mother's cooking, I could not eat that food, and I lost probably 15 pounds in a matter of 10 days.
What was wrong with the food?
I couldn't acquire a taste for it.
Really?
So I was living on milkshakes and things like that at the, after that. I remember that.
Really?
Well, yeah, oh, sure.
Because this is the first time I've heard somebody complain about the food and the
Oh,
service.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay. So, was this like a boot camp?
boot camp.
You didn't do
Right,
much?
Same principle.
Okay. Were you trained in no schooling or anything like that?
Not that I remember anything special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how long were you there in Jacksonville?
Oh, gosh, maybe, what's boot training normally, about 6 or 8 weeks, something like that?
Okay. Where'd you go after that?
We went to Memphis, Tennessee. That's where we specialized. Some of the guys were divided up into radio, and some of the guys were divided up into ordnance, and I was put into ordnance at that time.
That's the ammunition.
Right.
Right. What kind of training did you receive there?
In Memphis, Tennessee, how to put bombs on planes, firing all types of weapons, taking them apart in the dark, putting them back together in the dark, everything up to a 20 millimeter, if I remember. And, loading the ammunition in the planes, make sure that they were firing all right and all that, putting bombs on, what else?
But you said you went to school there.
Yeah, right.
What did they teach you there?
Basically, ordnance,
It was on-the-job training?
right, on-the-job training.
This was
yeah.
not classroom.
Classroom too, yeah.
Classroom
Oh,
training.
sure.
Yeah.
And then I remember we were shooting from platforms at moving targets to a degree, trained in that turret type of,
What kind of aircraft?
at that, Memphis, Tennessee was strictly on the ground, if I remember. It was just training and that, and then we went to another base, and that's when we started, Memphis, was it strictly on the ground? Yes.
But did you say you loaded bombs and you
Things
loaded...
like that. They taught us how. Of course, the bombs
Right.
were not, they were more or less dummy bombs, but they told us how to do it, showed us how to
But
do it.
did you actually load them onto aircraft?
Yes, yeah.
And what kind of aircraft?
At that time, I think they were B-25s, the Army version. We had some, the Navy had some.
Yes.
And
Any fighters?
I can't remember the identification of the B-25 Navy version. We just called them B-25s.
Yeah. A-20, A-26?
No, A-26 was another plane. That was a two-engine bomber. I remember that. The Army had those.
Yeah, it was something like the B-25.
Yeah.
But so you practiced on loading
Yeah.
bombs and
Yeah,
ordnance,
and
and
loading in the turrets and things like that.
you enjoy that?
Yeah, yeah. 18 years old. I didn't mind it at all. Yeah.
How careful were you in doing that?
Oh, very careful. Very, very careful. They taught us that very good. Very, very well. In fact, the first time we fired machine guns, it was so that they were individual booths, and the guns could only go so far to the left or to the right. And sure enough, one of the guys froze on it, and he couldn't release the trigger. And it just kept firing, and as he's firing, the gunner's coming up, and we're looking at him, and we're
Right.
ready to hit the deck.
Right.
But
right.
fortunately, they only held so many rounds in that would just extinguish.
Okay. Now, when you say you were trained on some kind of a machine gun,
30 caliber for us.
30 caliber, where would that be mounted? Would it be mounted on an aircraft or just
No,
mounted on a
no,
platform?
no, on a platform.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so how long did you spend at Memphis?
Memphis was probably a good, you're asking me to remember all this.
Yeah.
But Memphis must have been quite a while. I'm going to guess at least probably 12 weeks, something like that.
Did you keep in touch with your family all during
Oh,
this
yeah.
time?
Oh, sure.
Write letters back and
Oh,
forth?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You were single?
Oh, yes.
And did you go into town and
Yes.
mingle with the population?
Oh, yes. But we could not go in certain areas in those days.
Why not?
It was segregated to some degree. You had to stay out of certain areas. I
Really?
remember that, sure.
Is that also the same in Jacksonville?
Jacksonville, we had no,
No segregation?
no, in Jacksonville, we could not leave the base. There was no, you could not leave.
No
Basic
passage.
training, you couldn't go out.
Okay. So in Memphis, you were taught, or you were shown where you could go and where you couldn't go?
Yeah, you were told, well, I hate to say it, but at that time, it was whites only, and,
Yeah.
Sure.
And did you have,
didn't
did you
realize-
intermingle with the
Oh, sure.
people there?
Yeah.
And when you went into town, did you go in uniform?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, you had to go in uniform.
They respected the uniform there?
Oh, yes. Oh,
There
sure.
was no dissension anywhere?
No, no.
Okay. So where'd you go after Memphis?
Memphis, we went out to Beaufort, South Carolina, which was where you learned to fly on these Lockheed, what were they called? The British Navy used a lot of them. PV2, I think they were called, or P2V. I'm not
P2V,
sure.
I think.
Yeah.
I think.
They were Lockheed, I remember them as Lockheed.
Twin engine?
Twin engine, with a big gas tank right in the center of the plane. I'll never forget that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We learned to fly on those. And we also
When you
learned,
say you learned to fly, what was your position?
I was, at that time, I became a tail gunner.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm trying to remember if they had a tail gun at that time or we just fired from the top turret. I can't remember too well on that.
Did they have a top turret?
Oh, yeah.
And they had a tail gun?
I'm not sure. That's why I'm trying to remember the tail gun or not. I remember the top turret.
And was it 30 caliber?
At that time, no, I think it was 50 caliber.
50.
Yeah.
And describe a typical mission, training mission.
Training mission was more or less, Beaufort, South Carolina is a little bit inland, if I remember. In fact, I passed it going down 95, going to Florida.
Uh-huh.
And I actually went in there looking for it one year. I couldn't find it, the Naval Air Station. And we weren't there too long. And we used to go down to Savannah, Georgia. That was where the fun was, Savannah, Georgia. Take a bus and go down there when we'd have a weekend leave.
So Beaufort is closer to Savannah than it is?
Yeah, 40, 50 miles, 60 miles, I'm not sure, maybe 80, 70 miles.
Describe to me a typical training mission.
Okay, training missions basically, at first, we would just go out for maybe 4 or 5 hours, fly around, get to know the people in the crew and the pilots, even though we knew we were going to leave this base. And we didn't do too much firing at anything, really. It was still basically you shot from guns that were mounted down below. We did some firing at tow targets, but we weren't there that long. It was sort of like an in-between base till we could get going somewhere else.
But this would be a flight familiarization?
Yeah,
type
and
mission?
also we learned also how to guard our bases too, at nighttime.
How did you do that?
Well, because it's a small base, everyone has to take part of everything, even working in the kitchen, and marking the base perimeter at nighttime, and things like that.
Now, were you told that you were training for a typical type of mission when you went aboard the...
At that time, no. Wait a minute, when did that come?
Or did they intersperse school training with
There was
flight
all
training?
sorts of training. We had to learn how to do the Morse code. We had to train to do radio at that time too. And it's coming back to me now. And we
all right.
also had to do the flags.
Semaphore.
Semaphore, yeah.
Right.
Which I never thought I could learn Morse code, I'm looking at these.
Right.
But you learned it,
And besides codes, what else did you learn? Did they teach you how to operate the radios?
Yes, at that time, because in case somebody was hurt, you had to do intermingling a little bit, doing different things.
Map reading?
No.
No map reading.
No. That we didn't have to do.
Electronics?
Not too much on that either, no.
Okay.
No.
All right. When you say you were shooting at tow targets, that would be from either the tail position or from the turret position?
Yeah, I'm sure it was top turret though at that time.
Top turret?
Yeah. Yeah. I think they were being towed by, I'm not sure, B-26s at that time. I'm not sure just who was, yeah.
Okay.
Also, we were taught shooting, it's come to me a little bit more now. Wait a minute, yeah. Oh, yeah, like firing at a target on the ocean, just a little moving target down there, and you fire at it as you pass by.
On the ocean?
Yeah.
Well, how would you fire?
No. In other words, flying, they'd bank the plane a little bit.
Bank the plane.
Yeah, and you just fire at a target, you know.
Yeah, so there were no turrets on the bottom.
Yeah, there was no turret on the bottom. That I know. There must have been one on the tail, though. It had to be.
Okay.
All bombers had tail turrets.
All right. So you were familiar. You got familiar with that Lockheed Light
Yeah.
twin-engine bomber.
Yeah.
And but you never did any flying in the cockpit.
No.
This
No.
was mostly
No.
mostly turret
Aircrew.
and gunnery.
Yeah.
Okay. What happened after Buford?
Buford, mind you, I had not come home on leave yet at all yet.
Right.
Buford, we went to Miami Naval Air Station, which was paradise for all of us guys.
Really?
We really liked it.
When did you get there?
But before I say that,
Yeah.
okay, you know, I'm missing something here. I went to Miami Naval Air Station, and some of the guys went to Pensacola. We were divided up. And I remember someone had passed the scuttlebutt. If you were 5'10" and over, they would put you in the patrol bombers. And if you went to Pensacola, you went to the dive bombers, and you also went to the torpedo bombers. And in my mind, I wanted to go to the patrol bombers because they had 4 engines.
Okay.
So I figured they were safer than a single engine plane.
Okay.
And I didn't want to be, actually, I didn't want to be on a carrier too much.
Right.
I wanted to be land-based.
Okay. All right. So,
Selfish way of thinking.
well, everybody has their
Yeah.
desires, and you served in the way in which you felt, you know, that you'd be happy and efficient for the Air Force as well, for the Naval Air Corps anyway. So, when you went to Miami Naval Air Station, describe what you saw.
Well, it was basically a PB-4Y2 base, which is really a B-24 with a single tail.
A B-24.
With a single tail, yeah. No one,
Okay.
you know, always heard about B-24s with the
Right.
twin tails.
Yeah.
We had the single tail.
It's amazing.
And we also, believe it or not, had, if I remember, and I'm sure, we had 2 top turrets, not 1, but 2, on
Really?
those planes. Yeah, I'm positive of that.
And what was your job?
My job I became a tail gunner. I asked for that. I
You
didn't
asked?
want to be a belly gunner. No way. And the other guys was on the sides.
What were your, well, how, describe your quarters as a tail gunner?
Sitting in there?
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't
Tight.
put a parachute on, that's for sure. You didn't have the room for that. The parachute was behind you. But also there was a trap door in case you had to bail out.
Really?
Which I liked,
You did?
yeah. See,
And
how we ever get the parachute on in time and then pull the trap door and go is beyond me now, but that's
you
the way
were
it
able,
was.
you were trained to do that?
Yeah.
You had emergency training?
Right.
What kind of parachute did you use? Was it a chest pack or was it a backpack?
I think at that time they were backpacks, yeah, definitely backpacks, yeah. You strapped them on the back, yeah.
Did you have any training in folding parachutes?
No,
They were all folded for you?
they were all folded for us, yeah.
And what other, remembering your quarters as a tail gunner, what did you have in front of you?
Twin machine guns and a sight,
And a sight?
yeah.
How accurate were they?
I always thought the sights lagged a little behind. In
Really?
other words, that's where we learned on not just shooting at a tow plane, carrying a tow target, but actually you had training in where a plane would come in, and cut down and cross you, and you had to go with them. But when you swung that turret around, it always seemed to me the sight was lagging a little bit, and then it would come in. It's just that fraction of,
So did you have to lead it a little bit?
oh, yeah, yeah. Well, that was another thing, yeah, that's right. Before we did a lot of shotgun shooting in leading targets. That was in Memphis, Tennessee. I remember that now.
You say shotgun?
Yeah, you fired shotguns. They taught you, they'd fire, shoot a target off, and you had to lead it and try to hit it. That was basically how we learned to shoot. Everyone in the rest of the country, like the South and the Southwest and the Midwest, they knew how to shoot. The only ones that didn't know how to shoot was us guys from the Northeast.
So this was like skeet shooting? They would shoot a
Skeet
clay
shooting,
pigeon,
yeah.
whatever it
Yeah,
might be?
and we'd shoot at that,
And you learn how to lead?
yeah.
Okay.
And also we fired 45s, now it's coming back, and 38s, and we fired 22, which was the most accurate gun of all of them,
Yeah.
for short distance.
Less of a
45,
kick.
I couldn't hit a side of a barn,
Yeah. Pretty big kick on one
yeah.
of those things.
And what they didn't tell us, I'm left-handed. When you fire a 45, that shell comes out this way.
Uh-huh.
And right-handed, it goes that way.
I see.
Left-handed comes right by your face.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
So you were firing these weapons with your left hand?
yeah,
Okay, you could never get to shoot them with your right?
no,
Yeah. But you had no problem with the tail gun?
no, no, no.
Are they 250s there?
Yeah, 250s.
Okay. And at that time, you were, how old were you, 18, 19?
18, yeah.
So you fit in that area quite well.
Yeah.
And how are your communications?
What, the headphones?
Headphones,
Yeah.
communications with other people in the...
Oh, sure, oh, yeah, the crew.
Yeah.
Not outside the crew, just with the crew and the pilot, that's all.
Did you stick with one crew throughout your service after Miami?
No, then you got, no, we were broken up, which was too bad. I really met some nice guys.
No.
We had great friendship, yeah, and every base we had friendship.
Yeah. Have you ever met any of those people that you served with
No.
after your other
No,
service?
they were not from this part of the country. They all came from different areas.
Okay. So...
Only one guy, come to think of it, from South Boston,
What did he do?
drink.
Other than
I
that,
didn't want any part of him, you know, afterwards.
what did he, was his job?
Oh, he was training naval air crew too. I don't know what happened because we went to different bases.
Uh-huh.
But in Memphis, Tennessee, he just, I mean, all he wanted to do was go to the bar and drink, and, you know, I wasn't brought
Yeah.
up that way. you know.
Right. So when you were in Miami Naval Air Station, you can...
Opelika, they called it.
Opelika, yes, I've been there.
Is it still there?
Yeah, but I think it's now a housing project for the less fortunate.
All right.
Yeah. So you were at Opelika?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I called it Miami Naval Air Station, but the official name was Opelika.
Yeah, right. That's a little bit north of Miami. And
What town's that in, Greg? Do you remember?
Opelika?
Yeah.
In North Miami.
North Miami?
North Miami.
See, I can't remember it.
Yeah.
I'm not good at memory too much.
Yeah. In those days, it was a nice base. So you flew and trained
Right.
from Opelika.
Yeah. But,
So you were still training.
well, actually, we were still training, and about a few weeks into it, maybe a little more than a few weeks, about 4 or 5 weeks, we became operational in a way. And now this is, if I remember, yes, I do remember, this is the time the Germans were getting, I guess they were losing the war. So they decided, let us go out and look for German submarines and see if they're still out there. You know, these planes, we stayed aloft 8 hours. My God, a long flight.
Really?
We used to bring
These
sandwiches.
are B-24s, you say?
Yeah, single tail.
With a single tail. That's
Yeah.
a really unusual
Yeah, see,
configuration.
you know, I had pictures of it, but I can't find them in the album. Someone clipped my album and took pictures.
Yeah, that would be helpful if you could do that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you went, your average mission was 8 hours,
yeah, six
And-
days,
and-
6 to 8 hours, yeah.
and the plane was able to stay afloat?
Yeah,
Stay-
long missions. We'd go out at maybe around 5 o'clock at night and didn't come back till after 12 or 1 o'clock, yeah.
How did you locate the submarines?
Well, at that time, we had radar. Our planes were mounted with radar. And what they would do is, I don't know, how far was the radar good? For 30 miles, 20 miles, something like that?
But that would be on the surface.
Well, we would have, yeah, right.
Radar was not able to penetrate the water, was it? Or
No,
was it?
no, it's just surface. Sometimes the radar would pick up a whale and didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And they had a procedure, if I recall it. You'd fly, I'm not sure, maybe 2,500 feet or something like that. And what they would do, if they spotted something, and it's all part of the training too, they would cut the engines and come in a glide at the target,
Right.
because, so the crew wouldn't be, think, oh, they hit the
Yeah.
engines, they want them out there, anti-aircraft guns or machine guns or whatever. And you came in strictly by radar. We bombed by radar if we spotted a target, which happened once, just once. And as a tail gunner, and as soon as they bombed, they turned the engines on naturally. They dropped flares before that to maybe even blind the gunner's eyes down there.
Right.
And it was interesting. I tell you, at 18 years old, you weren't afraid of anything.
They shut off all 4 engines?
All 4 inches.
And
Either
they
or
were
they
able to...
started- Now, Greg, you know better because you flew aircraft.
Yeah.
Now, whether they cut the engines, is that the right term, maybe?
Yeah.
And then restarted them.
How they would restart 4 engines?
4 engines is beyond me.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, now maybe they cut 2 and just try to keep the noise level down.
Right, right.
But I remember them cutting engines, and you couldn't really hear too much out there. And just go into a glide, maybe the last 2 miles, and then restart the engines as they pulled up slightly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, how long did you do that at Miami?
Miami, we stayed there maybe at least a few months, yeah. Yeah.
And so, the time came for you to move on?
Then from Miami Naval Station, we had our first leave. At that time, I had been in the service about 1 year. And we had our first leave home. We went home, and from there, we took a train out to San Diego. That was our next base.
Really?
Yeah.
Why'd they send you to San Diego?
Because they were going to send us to the South Pacific.
I see.
Yeah, our squadron was, but, okay, that squadron,
What squadron were you in?
now, was that, wait a minute, because that squadron we left them in Miami. I went out to,
Do you remember the designation of the
well,
squadron?
there was 2 of them. One was VJ4, one was VJ6, if I remember. No, VJ4 must have been the first one, and VJ6 must have been the second one.
You know what that stood for?
Now, in Honolulu, Greg,
Yeah.
which was just waiting around, more or less, to go back further out to Guam, because we're going to get on a ship and go out. So we went only Honolulu for about a month.
So you went from Jacksonville straight to San Diego?
No, from Miami Naval Air Station.
Okay, from Miami, you went straight shot to San Diego.
First, we went home for
Then you went home. Okay.
a leave of 10 days, whatever it was.
Describe your stay at home.
My stay was home. It was very nice. But I also had met a girl from Miami Beach, a
Right.
student there,
Right, right.
and she
right.
had a couple other girlfriends, and I used to we used to get together with them.
Yeah,
And she had come home to New Jersey with that thick New Jersey accent.
right.
And I decided to go down to New Jersey for a stay overnight and then come back home one night, and then we more or less went off.
How long was your leave?
It couldn't have been more than. Oh, somebody's at the. It couldn't have been more than 2 weeks the most, I would say.
Okay. Hold on just a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's take it from the leave that you had
Yeah.
at Miami, the first leave that you had after a year in the service.
Right. Just about a year.
How long was your leave?
Couldn't have been more than maybe 10, 12, 13 days. I don't remember. It was not that long.
All right. So you went home, you enjoyed the family and
Yeah.
home cooking?
Yeah, right.
You like the home cooking?
Naturally.
Okay. Did you put on some weight?
No, not really.
Okay. So you went down to New Jersey, you saw some friends down
Yeah.
there, and you went back home.
Right.
And all your traveling was done on land, right?
Right.
Okay. And then from there you returned to Miami
No, we went directly to San Diego Naval Air Station.
from Watertown,
Yeah, right.
directly?
Right.
Okay. And that was done by troop train?
Yeah.
And what did you have with you? A sea bag, and that's about
That's
it?
about it, yeah.
Okay. When you arrived at San Diego, what did you describe your arrival there? What did you see?
Actually, San Diego at that time wasn't much, you know. There seemed to be nothing but wall plants and military bases. That's basically what San Diego looked like. what I could see of it,
Okay. And what did you do over there? What do they start you doing?
Well, we went there too long because there again, we were in transit, It was just a transit base. We probably went to classes and things like that, nothing in particular. And maybe,
Do any flying?
no flying in San Diego, no.
Did you notice what aircraft they had there?
No,
Because it was a naval air station.
I got to tell you, let me go back now. You're
ahead.
making me think of something.
All right, go
If you
ahead.
don't mind.
That's all right.
Okay, when we were in Memphis, Tennessee, they told us they were taking us to a restricted area in the hangar. And they say, what you're going to see here, you can't talk about it. So as we marched through, it was just like this hallway, we marched through, there was this aircraft sitting over there, a Bell aircraft. It was Bell. I'm pretty sure it was Bell. And it had no propellers.
Uh-huh.
And we looked at it, and they said, well, they haven't put the engines on the plane yet. Then we looked at it again. There's this big, like a hole in the front of the plane. You say, no engine's going to fit in there. That was the first jet aircraft I had ever seen. And
Was this
we
like the
didn't know
Bell
what it was.
X-1? Was this like the X-1 that looked like a rocket?
no, it was a regular. I'm not sure if it had a single engine or twin engines. No, I can't even remember it.
Yes. Bell did have a jet aircraft that they were.
Was it single
experimenting
engine or
with.
twin engines?
I think it was a single engine
Single
with
engine?
double intakes on
Okay.
each side.
I'm not,
I'm not sure.
And that was the first jet I had ever seen.
Really?
But we just sort of walked right by. You didn't stand and look at it. You kind of keep moving.
You didn't say anything about
Yeah.
it.
I remember that distinctly, and I had seen my first jet aircraft.
Uh-huh. So what happened after that?
Well, then we went out to, like I say, we went to San Diego. We just took classes and did different things like that.
In what?
Mostly ordnance and handling the radio just in case if there was an emergency, just to keep us going,
Keep you
keep
going.
us up to date. And from there, we were only there maybe a month, and then we went out to Hawaii, which was beautiful, magnificent.
How did you get there? Air?
By boat,
By boat?
yeah, by ship.
What kind?
Actually, it was a converted Italian liner that they had captured somewhere. It was a pretty nice ship.
Was it?
Yeah, but I remember we hit sort of like a hurricane, and I was out in the
Yeah.
deck doing a little throwing up out and over
Yeah.
the sides,
How are the quarters?
cramped.
Cramped quarters?
Yeah.
But everybody had some quarters to sleep in.
Oh yeah. Well, when you say quarters, you're right up lined up with one guy next to you, one after another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You didn't have staterooms, that's for sure.
pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Pretty tight.
Yeah, it was.
All right. So how long did it take you to get to Hawaii by boat?
Week.
Week.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
When you arrived at Honolulu, tell us what you saw.
Beautiful.
was
Beautiful
nice.
island. Unbelievable.
you been?
Tropical colors that you've never seen in your life. The flowers, everything was just beautiful. Stood out in your mind.
Have you been there since?
No.
Yeah.
No.
What happened when you got to Honolulu?
Well, we went to our different bases and whatever, and there again, it was just a stopover. We were only there for about a month.
Okay. Continued training.
Yeah, basic stuff like
Basic
that.
stuff.
Yeah, they got to keep you moving, keep you marching around, whatever.
Did you enjoy the town at all? Did you
Yes,
have time to
yes,
enjoy the
definitely.
town?
Yeah, very
Yeah.
nice, very, very nice.
Yeah.
Honolulu. Yeah,
And what did your activity consist of there?
Honolulu.
Yeah.
Girls.
Girls.
What else?
Matter of fact, I think television the other day, they said they had one of the biggest brothels in the world there.
Oh, I don't know about the brothels.
You don't know.
I can imagine there must have been. I can
Okay.
imagine there must have been.
All right.
But the
And-
girls were extremely beautiful girls because half of them are Asiatic and half of them Americans in the mixture. It's
Yeah,
beautiful,
yeah. They accepted you?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
No problem.
All right. What happened after Honolulu?
We got on a ship again. Well, first, typical Navy thing,
Yes.
don't volunteer for anything.
Right.
Well, they said some of the guys were going to stay in Honolulu permanently, and some were going to go out to the South Pacific. So I says, I'd rather stay in Honolulu. So I put my name on a list, And that list went out to sea, overseas.
That was out the South Pacific. It tricked you.
Typical Navy thing.
Now, this was in the 45?
Yeah, that would be 1945, yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. So where in the South Pacific did you go?
We went directly to Guam. The island had been taken, even though there was a few snipers around and a few stragglers. The Japanese never quit. The island had been taken, and everything was basically secure.
Yeah. That's a long trip. Did you go there by ship?
Yeah.
None of it by air.
No, all by ship.
All right. Took you how
That's
long?
where we formed up our squadron, our VJ, I'll say VJ 6 Squadron, I think it was called.
What did that consist of?
It was the
B-24?
yeah, with a single tail.
With a single
I think
tail.
we call them privateers, if I remember. I'm not sure.
Privateers.
Yeah.
And you operated out of, what is it, Henderson Field out there?
No, the Navy had their own base, and the Army base wasn't too far from us.
Right.
And that's when we start really flying some patrols way out, looking. And eventually...
You ever find any Japanese submarines or Japanese
no,
ships?
nothing. No. They were further out, further north. And we were getting, even that was going to be a base to go further, like out to maybe the Philippines eventually, because they were talking the Philippines was coming up. But at that time, while we were out there about a few months, and these, they were beautiful planes. The B-29s used to come into Guam, and then move up further to the island, Saipan and other places.
Yeah.
Well,
You thought the B-29s were a beautiful plane?
yeah, just to look
Ran
at
out
them
of,
coming in.
ran out of gas pretty fast, though. Did you ever see them,
Emergency landing?
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
I was only witness to one, see, there again, I'll go back to Miami Naval Air Station. It was right in our quarters. In order to get your flight pay time in for the month, sometimes if you lacked a little flying time, you made it up by just getting on one of these little training flights,
Right.
So some of the guys get up in the morning, early in the morning. I overslept. They got onto one of the planes to go on a training flight just to get their flight time in.
Right.
And the plane crashed.
Oh.
It went up circle, trying to make a landing, but it came down.
What kind of an aircraft
It
was
was the
B-24?
Yeah, B-24.
B-24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody died except one guy. The tail guy sitting in the rear of the plane had been in a plane crash before, and he knew enough to bail out.
Uh-huh.
Even though the pilot said we're going to ride it down and land at the airfield, they all died, except for this one guy, and he was from Massachusetts, Somerville.
Really?
And he said, I knew enough to jump. He said, that plane was in trouble, and I'm going to get out of there. And he did.
You took that lesson.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Now let's go forward again now.
now we're fast forwarding Guam, and
I can
you're
go back to
flying.
Miami again one more incident.
Go ahead.
Actually, when we broke up and some of us went to Miami and some of us went to Pensacola,
Right.
a lot of my friends went to Pensacola, and I lost a lot of friends.
You did.
They were in that famous flight now. It's called the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the naval torpedo bombers. I think there were about 6 or 7 of them, flew out and never came back. They were completely lost. We didn't know anything about Bermuda Triangle. So I knew a lot of those guys in that crew. Don't ask me their names now, that's too far gone.
Yeah.
And,
There were a flight of TBFs, I think, weren't there?
right, torpedo bombers, yeah, TBFs, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Were they experienced?
pilots were experienced, but I understand the lead pilot's navigator was highly experienced, but he got completely, from what I understand,
For some reason they were lost.
yeah, they got lost and they could not seem to fly back. Then they send out a PB.
BBY?
It wasn't a PBY. There was another patrol bomber that took off from the ocean. It wasn't a PBY, which was a beautiful plane.
Yes. They have them with 2 engines and 4
Right,
engines.
yeah. Anyway, they got lost too.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
And
Okay.
I lost a lot of friends.
Yeah. So, fast forward to Guam.
Right. which was very hot.
When were you in Guam? When did you get there?
Well, let's see. It was prior to the Japanese surrendering.
Before the atom bomb?
Yeah, because like I was going back, these B-29s came into Guam, and there was a flight of about 6 of them came in, and then we heard the scuttlebutt that they were highly guarded. We didn't know why, no one had any ideas, but they had almost like a battalion of Army guys just around the perimeter on that base for a few weeks, and we had no idea. We never saw that before. And then the B-29s left, and then we heard that they had dropped the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
So, and then the Japanese surrendered because a lot of us knew we were going to be heading out and eventually going toward Japan.
Right.
So when they talk about the atomic bomb, it saved a lot of people in the service. That I know.
You were in favor of having to drop it.
Well, in a way, I didn't like to see that many people die, but I think it saved more Japanese lives and more American lives than the people that were lost.
The plane the single plane that actually dropped the bomb went from Tinian.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. And that was an island slightly, I believe, to the north of Guam, and
There was Saipan, and I think there was Tinian. It was
Tinian, yeah. And I think one of our comrades, Al Darien, was significant in the capture of Tinian.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
before the Enola Gay took off.
Oh.
Yeah. And of course, the Navy was helpful. The Indianapolis brought the atom bomb over.
Yeah. Then what happened to them afterwards?
Yes,
They were
I know.
torpedoed.
Right. This was after the.
Right after the last day of the war, maybe.
Yeah.
But you know, I had a first cousin on Guam. He was at the Army base there, and I didn't even know he was there.
No.
My cousin Alfred A Margosian.
Really?
I'm on the naval base, he's on the Army base.
And you didn't have too much time to mingle with the local populace there?
You don't mingle, period.
No,
No mingling.
because the island wasn't completely occupied.
No, it wasn't that. It was that you didn't go around with the native people there. They were native Guamanians, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Guamanians. Yeah.
Guamese, I think.
Yeah. And of course, they give us these talks that they can carry some sort of tropical disease, and if you catch it, you might be stuck on the island for about 5 or 6 years. Now, whether these stories are true or not, but it was enough to scare the hell out of you. So, and you weren't allowed to mingle.
You weren't?
No.
Yeah. How did you otherwise think of Guam? What kind of a place was it? Anything like Hawaii?
Extremely warm. No. We witnessed not a hurricane, but...
Tsunami?
A what?
Tsunami?
Is that what's the...
It's like a 10 times faster
Yes.
hurricane.
Yeah, like the winds were like 140 miles an hour.
Right,
They flew all the aircraft out of there. I remember they went out somewhere, and they took all the ships out to sea to ride it out. And like an idiot, I stepped out, and everything was tied down, barracks, Quonset huts,
Right.
roped down.
Yeah.
And like an idiot, I stood outside to see how fast the wind was.
Yeah.
You couldn't walk against it.
You
Put
couldn't.
it that way. There's no way you could walk against it. Yeah.
Okay. So what happened after Guam?
Well, like I say, when the Japanese surrendered, we were in Guam approximately 6 months. And then, of course, they were rotating everyone by home who had been out there the longest.
Right.
And, there were a lot of guys who
Did you see
were out
enough?
there.
Did you see Navy ships there? Did you see the Missouri or the Indianapolis or any of those ships?
No.
This was strictly a naval air station.
Yeah, we didn't see hardly anything.
So you didn't see any part of the Navy there?
Not really, no,
Yeah,
not that
okay.
much. All I know is that CBs put in roads that you couldn't believe.
Really?
Dug them right out of the jungle, roads, everything.
Did a good job?
Oh, God, they were incredible. They should have hired them back home to dig roads.
Really?
Oh.
Did they lay down the airstrips?
Yeah.
And were the airstrips
That metal.
paved, or were they that metal?
Some of them, ours was, I think, metal, if I
Metal?
remember. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We
So
played a lot of softball on Guam.
You did?
Yeah.
And,
But it was hot.
You
Oh, my
stayed
God.
amongst yourselves,
Yeah,
and you must have, it was hot.
yeah. Terribly heat.
Yeah. Lost a lot of weight?
I maintained the weight by drinking a lot of pineapple juice. I remember getting cans of pineapple juice, actually raiding the place and taking them back.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the chief, what do they grow there in Guam?
What
They
do
grow pineapples and coconuts?
I don't remember.
No idea.
I really don't remember what they grew over there. Like I say, we never left the base.
Did
We
the
were
food
always
get
on the
any
base.
better?
Oh, food wasn't, well, you had powdered milk, you had powdered eggs even, if I remember. It wasn't that great. But I had gotten used to eating the food.
Yeah.
you
But the
know.
food in Honolulu was,
Oh, yeah, that wasn't bad.
that was
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
And
Just
I
don't
used to
miss
have beer rations. I didn't drink beer, and I was one of the favorite guys on the base.
Really?
Because they wanted my beer rations.
I see.
I would get Coca-Cola rations for them, more than one.
All right. So eventually you were rotated from Guam?
Yeah, from Guam, we went back to San Francisco. Direct. We went by,
Okay.
oh, the red lights?
No, red light's still on, isn't it?
Oh.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And
You went
we-
to San Francisco?
Yeah, that was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. You knew you were coming home.
Yeah.
How did it feel?
It was okay. I almost re-enlisted, though.
You did?
On Guam, I almost re-enlisted.
Almost. Why?
Well, you know, you became attached to everybody. You were friends, you had pals, your crew was, the pilots were pals, there was none of this, the officers were regular guys. And we were fortunate, very fortunate. Our pilots were former fighter pilots, probably mostly carrier, who, they were regular Navy. And once they got up around 30 years old, they were kicked out of the fighter, and they became bomber pilots, whatever, patrol bombers or whatever. And so we had good
Good
crews.
camaraderie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But our pilot was good enough to say to us, the war is over now. And we all thought we were going to go to Japan. Oh boy, that's going to be a nice experience.
Yeah.
But he said to him, look, I got to tell you something. We are going to be a weather patrol squadron up in the Aleutian Islands, up in that area.
Oh,
And I said, God, I don't want to go up there. He says, we're going to tell you that right now. Those who want to stay in, fine. Those who don't want to stay in, you know.
yeah.
So
That
back
was tough
home.
duty.
I didn't want to go up there.
So had they changed your duty, you might have stayed in.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So from San Francisco, how long did you stay there?
We were about there about a month or so. Yeah.
Enjoyed it?
Yes.
Yeah.
You want to hear a funny story?
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, I didn't meet any Armenian kids at all. So all my friends were, you know, different, more or less they were Midwest kids
Yeah.
from the Midwest, who were very nice kids, nice guys. And we decided to go into San Francisco. There was some dance that was going on. You hear about them, they tell you these dances going on. So we went into it was a dance, and I see a girl there, and I start dancing with her, and she had two other friends with her. And as the other friend was dancing by, she said something in Armenian. Now, I wasn't sure if I heard this right, you know, for a minute I was astounded. And then the girl I was dancing with her answered her back in Armenian. And what the girl was saying, well, what do you think of these guys? Should we let them take us home? And I'm not saying a word, you know, I'm just
Yeah.
listening to all this.
Yeah.
And the girl says, yeah, they seem like pretty good guys. We can let them take them home. We'll bring them up to the house. So we went up to the house, and the mother came around, and very nice. She was very nice to us. And she looked at me, you know, because I was a little different looking from the other two guys. And she says, what nationality are you? And I said, just hi him. And the girls went like this, you know, all this time, you know. That was one of the funniest times.
They didn't realize that you knew what they were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was funny. That was
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that, yeah.
They treat you to an Armenian
yeah,
meal?
Sure. Oh,
Yeah.
Of course, when I heard that.
Yeah.
I'll come to chicken and pilav eventually. What else is there?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, have you ever seen them after this?
No.
Yeah.
I've seen
So you
nobody.
came, how'd you get from San Francisco to home?
I think by train, if
By
I
train?
remember. Yeah, we came by train.
You happy to get home? Parents were happy to see you?
Oh, of course. I was in one piece.
Yeah,
I had lost quite a few friends, and my mother was worried. It was only natural. She was most worried when that plane went down at Miami Naval Air Station, because she knew I was attached to that group. I was
Right.
part of that group. So
Did you
I-
write to them or call them?
I couldn't call her, I called my sister to let her know I was all right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's how I did it.
So, after you got home, did you take advantage of the GI Bill, or what?
Well, I went to BU for 2 years. I never collected that, what was it, $20 a week for?
Yeah,
no,
they call it the 2052 Club, or the
Yeah,
5220
I
Club?
never collected a nickel on that.
Really?
No, I don't know why.
You decided to go to BU,
Yeah,
and how long did that go? How long did that take?
I still read. I went 2 years and then I had to leave. My father had landed these big contracts with Star Market, and he said, "You're going to come and help."
What
So-
business was your father in?
Well, they were doing painting contract work for the Star Market at that time and
Right.
other things.
Uh-huh.
So he had to hire a lot of men, and he couldn't do it all alone. He was getting up there now.
Right,
So he
Okay.
says, "You've got to come in." I left BU
so to help him,
to help him, yeah.
okay. And then you yourself went into the painting
Yeah,
contractor
and then,
field?
yeah, because I was getting, I'm not going to go back to school. I'm married now, eventually, with a couple of kids.
How soon after you came home did you get married?
Well, I came home, I was at the age of, let's see, 18, 19, 20, 21? No, 20. I got married when I was 26.
26, okay. And so when did you join the post?
Well, that's a funny little story, too. I happened to be, oh, it's starting to blink, Jerry.
That's all right. Well,
I joined, okay.
go ahead.
Okay, I went to the bowling alley in Watertown one time. I saw a bunch of guys bowling there, and I knew some of them. And I says, how can I get into this league? They say you have to belong to this post. So I came and joined the post so I could go bowling.
And that was in the early 50s?
50s, yeah.
Right, and you've been here ever since?
Right.
And you enjoy the camaraderie?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, hold on, press the red button again.
It's on, it's blinking.
Press the red button again. There we are. That's all right, don't touch it. Okay. Okay, we've come to the end of our oral history with you, Al, and we appreciate your participating in the program. And we're going to end the oral history. Again, this is Wednesday, October 1 in the year 2003. And we want to thank you. We're proud of you being a member of Post 41. And I'm sure that coming generations will learn of something of what we went through as veterans. We weren't anywhere near as prepared as we are today to defend ourselves. We find that the challenges are much greater now than they were. Well, the challenges, the challenges are always relative, but the challenges today continue to threaten the security of our country. But with veterans like you, and with veterans coming on, and with the experience that we have been able to give to them, I'm sure that they will benefit from the information that we've given them in this oral history. Okay? So any lasting words?